Oh, thank you so much. Merci beaucoup. Thank you to all of you. Merci beaucoup, Peter MacKay. Thank you so much, Peter. Peter, I know I speak for all Conservatives when I say thank you. Thank you for your years of selfless service to our unified Conservative Party. And we all know that Peter is someone who set his personal interests aside for the good of our party, who decided to build up and not to tear down, and our party is a living testament to his hard work. And I want to say, Peter, a big congratulations to you and your wife, Nazanin, on the birth of their third child. Fantastic. Congratulations. Just 2 more to go. Why the look? I don't know. And I want to say thank you to the dozens of Conservative leaders from all over the country, all elected officials who are here with us this weekend. We certainly are one big, strong, united national Conservative Party. And in a little over a year, we will once again be a strong, stable, national, majority, Conservative government. Mais par-dessus tout, merci à chacun d'entre vous
each one of you
à Halifax ce week-end.
for coming to Halifax this weekend. I know many of you had to make long trips and spent a lot of money to be here.
I've even heard of some folks driving all the way from British Columbia to be here. Driving. Now, I have taken a lot of long drives in our minivan with our 5 kids. I cannot imagine what that must have been like to get from BC to Halifax, but thank you so much for being here. I want you all to know how much that means to me and our entire team. And I'm looking out at more than 3,000 committed Conservatives, nearly 70% of whom are attending their first ever political convention. Welcome. Et je n'ai jamais été plus honoré, plus fier.
I've never been more honored, prouder, or even happier to lead this great party. I've been waiting for this weekend for a long time, and you too, I know.
It's great to be among new friends, to forge new relationships, to connect with fellow Conservatives you might not have seen for a few years, and especially in the middle of a gorgeous Atlantic summer in a city as beautiful and historic as Halifax. And indeed, we have a lot to celebrate. We are out fundraising the governing Liberal Party by a margin of 2-1. Thank you to all of you who contribute. We're nominating impressive candidates in every part of this country, and we're standing up for Canadians every single day. And we're winning on the issues that matter to Canadians. And we're winning at the ballot box, ladies and gentlemen. Nous gagnons la lutte contre la taxe sur le carbone. Nous nous battons pour le libre-échange.
We're fighting for free trade. We support legal immigration, legal ordered immigration, and defend budget limits. And thanks to all that, we are winning elections in areas where no one gave us a chance.
We went from 16% of the vote just 3 years ago to 53% of the vote in the by-election in June. I know people from all over Canada might be looking at some safe Quebec seats to run in the next election for the Conservative Party. Thank you, Richard. Merci, Richard. But you know what? We didn't win by compromising. We didn't win by trying to impress people who will never like us, or by changing who we are or what we believe in. We won the best way there is to win, the only way there is to win, as far as I'm concerned. We earned it. We worked harder, our ideas were better, and we stayed true to our conservative principles. And what I'm saying is this: if we can win on our principles by staying true to ourselves in ridings like Chicoutimi-Lafiore, there is nowhere in this country that we can't win in 2019. Ce chemin a été ouvert le 18 juin dernier.
This road opened up in 2018 in Fjord. That riding that we lost 20 years ago is the hard work of the entire team that contributed to this historic victory in Saguenay. I'm so proud to have in our family the new MP of Chicoutimi-Fjord. And if we remain united, and if we continue to work hard, if we remain loyal to our principles, in a few months, the path of conservative victory will cross the entire nation.
Now, ladies and gentlemen, this weekend is about a lot of things. It's about celebrating how far we've come in the last year. It's about affirming our principles and articulating our vision. But most importantly, it's about all the people we fight for every single day. Like a father and son I met in PEI. They own a lobster boat. They took us out on a trip there with my family, and they taught us all about their way of life and how they earn a living. They're up during the season every day, 3 a.m., no matter what the weather, braving the ocean conditions to earn a living for their families. They told me it's hard, grueling work, and they absolutely love it. They wouldn't want to do anything else. Their #1 input cost is fuel, and they are absolutely terrified about what a carbon tax will do to their lives. It's about the dozens of workers at a plastics plant I visited in Markham, Ontario, who've already had to cut their work week down to 5 shifts a week, from 5 shifts a week down to 4, because it was getting too expensive to have the plant run every day. And the owner told me that the plant in Markham does everything that could be done just south of the border. He could move it across the border at less cost and greater profit. Now, he doesn't want to do that. He loves Canada. He loves his workers. But with rising costs, he doesn't know how much longer he can hold out. You know, I was in New Brunswick a few weeks ago, visiting the Moncton Farmers Market. I was making my way through the booths, and I saw this woman who was selling soaps, all natural, organic soaps. And she extended her hand to me as I was walking by with a troubled look in her face. And she came up to me and she put her hand out. I shook her hand and she looked at me and she said, "I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry." I was a little bit taken aback. I have had many conversations with Jill where I start off that way. So it's kind of odd to be on the receiving end. She kept apologizing. She kept looking at me saying, I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. And I thought, what on earth could this woman have possibly done? So she looked at me straight in the eye and she just said, "I am so sorry. I voted Liberal in the last election." We did share a couple laughs about that, but the more I've thought about that encounter since then, the more I realize that it's not all that funny. Cette femme, une propriétaire de petite entreprise qui travaille
A small
fort,
business owner
faisait
who works
confiance à
hard,
Justin Trudeau et
had
au
faith in
Parti
Justin
libéral.
Trudeau and the
Elle a
Liberal
cru quand
Party.
elle a dit
She
qu'il
believed him
protégerait
when he
la
said he
classe
would
moyenne. Elle a cru
protect the
qu'il
middle
avait ses meilleurs
class,
intérêts à
and she
cœur.
believed him when he
Qu'il
said he had
réduira
her
les
interests at
impôts de la
heart,
classe moyenne
that
et
he would
donnerait une
reduce
répit aux
taxes
petites
for the middle
entreprises.
class and give a break to small
Justin Trudeau has
businesses.
failed this woman by failing to deliver what he promised. And those failures have consequences. She told me she fears for the future, that it's getting harder to stay afloat, that she's worried about making ends meet with new taxes and rising costs. But here's the real problem. Justin Trudeau has no idea what she or any middle-class Canadian family is going through because of him. He has no concept about how to stretch a dollar, how to make it to the next payday, how to stick to a monthly budget. I'm not even sure he's seen a monthly budget. He just doesn't get it. He doesn't understand the problems faced, and he can't be trusted to fix them. But I can tell you, I do. I live in the great province of Saskatchewan. But in a lot of ways, my story begins on Cawthra Road, a 4-lane road linking the Lake Ontario waterfront in Mississauga to a web of major freeways in the GTA. Someone here from Cawthra Road? I heard a couple. Oh my gosh. 2. Fantastic. It's amazing. Well, you'll know that now, all up and down Cawthra Road, it's a very busy street. There's apartments, there's banks, schools, warehouses, lots of businesses lining both sides of the street. But 75 years ago, it was a dirt road where my grandparents, William and Eileen Enright, built a home. My grandfather was a factory worker at Massey Ferguson, while my grandfather stayed home in just a tiny one-story house. My mother, Mary, she was born first, and 8 kids came after. And I can tell you, it wasn't an easy life. From a young age, my grandparents sacrificed, and my mom sacrificed with them. She actually helped raise her brothers and sisters while my grandfather worked long shifts at the factory, and while my grandmother grew vegetables in the backyard and patched together the hand-me-down clothes to be passed along to the next kid. Right after high school, my mom became a nurse. She actually got hired as one of the original nurses at the Children's Hospital of Eastern Ontario. Before she moved to Ottawa, she saved up enough money to pay for a second-floor addition to her parents' house. And after that, it must have felt like a mansion. And that's what it was like in our own family growing up. My mom simply went from sacrificing for her siblings to sacrificing for children of her own. My parents, my mom and dad, we lived in a small townhouse in Ottawa. We didn't have a lot of money. My dad would always tell us that we'd have more money if the government didn't take so much on the front end, but we got by. They had to make sacrifices too. We didn't own a car, so we had to take the bus everywhere we went. And if you think it's easy to convince a girl to meet you at the bus stop in January in Ottawa, I can tell you it's not. You have to develop a pretty good pitch. But they did that, and they made lots of choices going without for themselves so that my sisters and I could have the things we wanted. Dance for them, sports for me, lots of the little things that all of us have had to do to make choices for our own kids. My mom was my hero. She passed away last year, just before I was elected leader. But I like to think she passed away knowing that she instilled in me a lasting obligation to make life even just a little bit better for the people around me and the people I serve. to raise my 3 daughters and 2 sons with the same strength and optimism that she showed me, to give of myself so the burdens of others might be lighter, just as she did her whole life. That is her legacy to our family. I want it to be my legacy to this country. This country has bestowed such fortune and opportunity on my family that I stand before you running to be the next Prime Minister, one generation removed from having 9 kids in a 2-bedroom bungalow along a dirt road. That right there is Canada, ladies and gentlemen, and it's worth fighting to protect. Mesdames et messieurs, comme l'histoire de notre parti le montre clairement,
as the history of our party demonstrates so clearly, conservatives win when we apply our principles, our strongest principles, and most fundamental principles to the modern problems that Canadians face. And not a day goes by without me feeling doubly privileged for leading this party and follow the path of the great conservative leaders.
To stand before you today, knowing that we are the party of Canada's first Prime Minister, the father of our federation, and the visionary who made this land possible, the great Sir John A. Macdonald. And I think it is a disgrace that some would allow extreme voices in this country to erase our proud heritage. But it's not just our heritage as conservatives, it's our heritage as Canadians. Because if we allow this to continue, if we're suddenly going to sanitize our history, with the benefit of hindsight and knowing what we know today, then what if those extreme voices kept going? You know, the Liberal Party of Canada's elite donor program is called the Laurier Club. Now, Sir Wilfrid Laurier, Liberal Prime Minister, signed an order in Council in 1911 banning Black immigrants to Canada, but he was also the architect of the Canadian Navy and a pioneer of free trade with the United States. Do we hear voices from the left saying that we better take his name off of everything and rename universities? William Lyon Mackenzie King, another Liberal Prime Minister, the man who navigated Canada through the Great Depression and led the country during World War II, closed Canada's doors to Jewish refugees fleeing Nazi Germany. And his own government at the time said, none is too many. Will the Liberals work to take his face off the $50 bill? No. But you can see how divisive this approach is, how destructive this is to our Canadian identity. We can and we should celebrate the giants of our history, like Macdonald, Laurier, and King, for the great things they did for our country. We can absolutely look to the past and learn from the mistakes that were made at the time while still celebrating the contributions that made Canada so great along the way. But friends, if we look back on our history and our leaders and only see their blemishes, we miss out on a beautiful story of a great country that has progressed into the safest, freest, and most prosperous in the world. Je suis devenu chef de ce parti il y a seulement 15 mois.
I became leader of this party only 15 months ago. It was a difficult campaign, and it was vigorous, and a big step forward for our party. We selected only a second leader this party's had in 13 years. When I won, we were about 10 points behind the Liberals. Mr. Trudeau was always the sweetheart of the international elite.
A year ago,
but things have changed
around the country, and people would stop me and say hello. They'd shake my hand. They'd say, "Hey, we're rooting for you. Good luck." Now, when people see me, they grab me by the hand, both hands on my arm. They look at me and they say, "Andrew, you've got to beat these guys." That sense of urgency is real. And why? Because the Liberal Party is finally showing its true colors. And I'm talking about the real Liberal Party. The tax-hiking, rule-breaking, perk-loving, deficit-spending, debt-mounting, virtue-signaling Liberals Canadians have come to know and despise. Justin Trudeau tries to say that Canada's back. I say the Liberals are back. Back to ignoring the rules and abusing the privileges of power. Just recently, we saw the government interfere in a process to award a clam fishing license to a fake company with deep ties to the Liberal Party. Todd Doherty knows it's the clam scam in Newfoundland. Bill Morneau, the finance minister, introduced a law regulating pension companies while still holding millions of shares in his former family firm that managed pensions. In 2016, we all remember, Justin Trudeau accepted a private helicopter ride to a luxury island vacation from someone who is registered to lobby his government. The Prime Minister broke the law, as the Ethics Commissioner so clearly confirmed. But hey, it was no big deal, because to Trudeau and the Liberals, the rules just don't apply to them. Ladies and gentlemen, this is how Liberals have always governed the country, not for the people, but for their friends. And if Justin Trudeau is engaged in this kind of corruption only 3 years into his term, just imagine what he would get up to if he had a second term. I shudder to think about it. Liberals are also back to raising taxes and squeezing the middle class. From coast to coast, I hear the same thing. People are getting by, but they aren't getting ahead. There's only a little left at the end of the month, and everything keeps getting more expensive. But Justin Trudeau doesn't get it. The federal government should not make life more expensive. As Prime Minister, I'm going to make sure the government takes less money off of every paycheck so you can get ahead, not just get by. Les Canadiens et les Canadiennes, partout au pays, me disent qu'ils se demandent
across the country tell me that they wonder whether the future is going to be better. In fact, more than half of Canadians are almost $200 away from not being able to pay their bills. Since the Liberals won in 2015, more than 80% of Canadians of the middle class pay more tax, with an average increase of more than $800. and the Liberals canceled all the tax benefits for students and children's activities. All this makes life more expensive.
Gas prices have reached record levels across the country. And what was Justin Trudeau's response? When he was asked about how this was affecting the day-to-day life of Canadians, Justin Trudeau actually celebrated it. He said higher gas prices are, quote, exactly what we want. Ladies and gentlemen, this kind of out-of-touch, elitist thinking is typical of liberal arrogance. Millionaire liberals like Justin Trudeau may want to pay higher gas prices, but the hard-working Canadians that we're fighting for sure don't. And yes, the Liberals are back to embarrassing Canada on the world stage and damaging relationships with important allies. Under Justin Trudeau, Canada's international trading prospects have never looked more grim. And that is a huge problem when 1 in 5 Canadian jobs rely on free trade. Now, it's true. The President of the United States is anti-free trade. And Donald Trump has been crystal clear all along that he's out to cause us pain and to steal our jobs. But standing up to Donald Trump starts by making sure that Canada is strong. We need to stop pumping cheap fuel into the American economy. We need to get our resources to new markets. We need to compete with other countries on taxation and regulation instead of rolling over. From Japan to India to Australia, Justin Trudeau has embarrassed Canada and has failed to open new markets. And those failures have consequences for Canadians. And Conservatives are going to work very hard to repair that damage. Earlier this year, I went to the United Kingdom, where I met with Prime Minister Theresa May, laying the groundwork for future negotiations for when we form government in 2019. And in October, I'm headed to India to do the same. But don't worry, I don't dance and I'm not bringing a celebrity chef along with me. The point is, international trade and foreign affairs is a serious endeavor requiring serious leadership. It's time for the grown-ups to be in charge again.
Liberals have always been the party of paternalistic and centralizing federalists. We have always worked to provide autonomous provinces to cooperate with them. We're not losing time arguing with them. We are going to respect the wish of all Quebecers to free themselves from the weight of double income tax forms. Justin Trudeau isn't listening to those who have had enough every year of filling in 2 forms. He doesn't listen, and he doesn't understand the daily lives of Canadians, of ordinary people. And you know what, my friends? Justin Trudeau, he lives in the world of Care Bears, unicorns, and fuzzy rabbits. And we have heard you. We are going to act. We are going to come back to reason, and that's coming soon. When I am Prime Minister, Quebec taxpayers will only be filling in one form like every other Canadian. Seriously, I make this undertaking today because I want to make Quebecers' lives easier.
Go back to bankrupting this country. Remember when Justin Trudeau talked about his temporary, tiny deficits? Well, turns out, not so tiny and definitely not so temporary. This government has racked up $73 billion in new debt. But what do we have to show for it? What do you have? Your wages haven't gone up, but I know your taxes have. This failure has real consequences. Canadians don't have more money left over at the end of the month, and they have less money to spend as they see fit. And why are Conservatives so passionate about this issue? Because every year that we're in a deficit, we're borrowing money from my kids and from yours. Deficits today mean higher taxes tomorrow. It really is that simple. And not one of us, not a single one of us in this room would leave a credit card bill to those who come after us. What Justin Trudeau is doing is robbing from our children, and it's just wrong. Under my leadership, the deficits will come to an end. We will balance the budget once again and put Canada's fiscal house back in order. Ils ont des plans environnementaux.
They're back to environmental schemes that sound great but do nothing to reduce emissions, while also punishing our industry. When it comes to the environment, Conservatives will keep our emissions down and continue to improve our environmental performance, but we won't destroy the economic engine of the country in the process.
The best way to reduce global emissions is not to shut down Canadian industry, it's to grow it. You know, here's just one example. Canada leads the world in tough environmental standards. We do so much so well at the best levels of responsible development. Here's a great example. In China, manufacturing a ton of aluminum produces 17 tons of CO2. In Canada, it produces just 2. That means we would actually grow our economy and reduce global emissions if more of that aluminum was made right here in Canada. Not punishing people for heating their homes or driving their cars, but luring investment away from countries with lower environmental standards and bringing it home to Canada. Now, speaking of pointless gestures that will cost Canadians a lot of money and do nothing for the world's climate, let me talk about the carbon tax. There is no idea in Canada that has had a worse year than the carbon tax. And I remember not so long ago when pundits and experts were writing obituaries for Conservative parties for not supporting a carbon tax. Now, they're writing obituaries for parties that do support the carbon tax. Kathleen Wynne and the Liberals in Ontario, gone. Thank you, Ford Nation. Jason Kenney and the United Conservative Party are about to take care of the NDP in Alberta. Even Liberals are running away from it. In PEI, the Liberal government will submit a plan this fall that won't include a carbon tax. And, I remember I was watching the Ontario election, and I got to tell you, one of the most frustrating days was when a poll came out that said that the people in Ontario opposed the carbon tax at a rate of 7 out of 10. 7 out of 10 people in Ontario were opposed to the carbon tax. And I saw an article with one of these experts who was writing a very intellectual article in one of the major newspapers. And the gist of the article was along the lines of, and I think one of the actual quotes was, the people of Ontario don't support the carbon tax because they just don't understand it. Now, I've traveled all over this country. There is a carbon tax revolt brewing. And I can tell you, the reason more and more Canadians don't support the carbon tax is precisely because we do understand it. And even Justin Trudeau is starting to cave, but he can't even get walking away from his own policy right. Instead of just getting rid of the carbon tax altogether, he's decided to give big businesses and big polluters a huge break. This summer, he very quietly exempted 90% of their emissions from his tax. Now, that means the single mother will still pay the tax on 100% of the gas she buys to drive to work, the groceries she buys to feed her kids. But industrial polluters and big businesses with their powerful lobbyists will enjoy a massive loophole. Now, Conservatives know the carbon tax just isn't bad for big business, it's bad for absolutely everyone. And that's why, come 2019, my first act as Prime Minister will be to get rid of the carbon tax once and for all. More and more Canadians are seeing through all of these Liberal deceptions. Liberals always like to try and wrap themselves up in good intentions, but their policies invariably hurt the very people they claim they want to help. They try and convince people that they're motivated by compassion. But we all know that there is nothing compassionate about their policies. There is nothing compassionate about a deficit. There's nothing fair about leaving the next generation of Canadians a mountain of new debt, with more and more of their tax dollars going to pay bankers and creditors. Il n'y a rien de compatissant.
There is nothing compassionate about taxing away prosperity or driving out investment, or factories closing down and workers being laid off. There is nothing compassionate about threatening millions of jobs with an unprecedented attack on small businesses, or about squeezing working families trying to make ends meet with more taxes.
Nothing compassionate about allowing thousands to cross the border illegally from a safe place like upstate New York, jumping ahead of those in refugee camps, fleeing violence and tyranny, waiting for Canada's help. This failure, again, has real consequences for both taxpayers and those who are seeking to come to Canada the right way, those waiting to be reunited with a loved one, or those in dangerous places around the world waiting their turn, following the rules. Those are the consequences of the Liberal failure on this file. And I won't let Liberals claim a monopoly on compassion, ladies and gentlemen, especially when it's conservative principles that actually help people who need it the most. Now, there's been a lot of talk about diversity in the last couple of weeks, and I am so proud to be the leader of a party that has so much to celebrate, so many firsts when it comes to diversity in this country. Justin Trudeau says that diversity is our strength, but I think he's missing the big picture. The reasons why waves and waves of immigrants from all over the world, all corners of the globe, have chosen Canada generation after generation. It's because we are free. Free to worship, and free to speak, and free to believe. It's because we are open to the persecuted and the oppressed. It's because we are equal as individuals, equal in opportunity, equal before the law, and equal in value. It is because of all these things that we are diverse. Diversity is a product of our strength. Our strength is and always has been our freedom. And I don't think I can put it any better than the last Prime Minister to come from Saskatchewan. As John Diefenbaker said, I am a Canadian, free to speak without fear, free to worship in my own way, free to stand for what I think right, free to oppose what I believe wrong, and free to choose those who shall govern my country. This heritage of freedom I pledge to uphold for myself and for all mankind. Those are principles that create unity, ladies and gentlemen, and there is unity in our diversity when we rally around those principles. Now, some will have you believe that our rights come from the identity groups the government puts us in. But conservatives know our rights come from the fact that we are individual Canadians. And in our politics today, the forces of political correctness are converging on contrary ideas and even on legitimate criticism, on deeply held personal convictions and complex matters of individual choice. Justin Trudeau wants this. He wants to impose his personal views on the country and demonize those who don't accept them. But conservatives won't let Trudeau avoid accountability for his decisions by smearing and name-calling those who dare to criticize him. Et nous savons déjà que le contexte politique.
And we know that politics in Quebec is going to be quite different in 2019. Both the Bloc and the NDP are more and more credible. Thank you very much. There is only one serious alternative to the Justin Liberal government, and that would be the Conservative Party of Canada. Indeed, there are left on the battlefield two adversaries, the Conservatives and the Liberals. Two parties are more than enough, a good party and a bad party. Enough already. And the contrast between Conservatives and Liberals has never been as clear. The choice is clear. a party that is listening, that is competent, and understands Quebecers, that is to say, the Conservative Party, or a party that has a great many failures, is incompetent, and to push the ideas of the Liberal Party of Justin Trudeau. Dear friends, I'm confident in terms of the next elections. I'm out there across the country listening carefully what all have to say, including Quebecers. People are coming to me. They want to talk to me. They are interested by no ideas. They feel that behind the image, Justin Trudeau's record is, in 3 words, failure, failure, and failure. We are listening carefully to what Canadians have to say, and the Conservative platform will be the Canadians' platform. In 2019, ideas and competence will take over image, arrogance, and failure. We have a little less than 1 year to endure even more Liberal failures before the sky turns blue again. Don't let anyone tell you that Conservative values are not Quebec values. Dear friends, the Quebec Conservatives can go in any region in Canada and be proud to do so, with their heads held high.
Results and achievements have actually been in the province of Quebec. And in 2019, with the same determination and pride, and with a renewed platform and a solid organization and great candidates, we will lead our team to the best results yet. Je m'engage personnellement.
I will commit personally to continuing efforts to link Quebec and the rest of Canada. My determination is such that I will use every available means to me to convey the Conservative message. And that is what I didn't hesitate, not 1 second, to appear on the TV show Tout le monde en parle. And I'm still alive. I survived. Still, I need you. Our caucus needs you. Together, we will give Canada what it deserves, a Conservative government, strong, efficient, and with a Quebec team that is just as strong and just as determined.
Ladies and gentlemen, Conservatives are united, we're strong, we're ready, and we're winning. Across provincial borders, Conservatives are coming together and winning. Look at what Jason Kenney has done in Alberta, what Doug Ford achieved in Ontario, what Scott Moe is continuing doing in Saskatchewan. They're winning, and we're winning too. Nous sommes unis dans nos...
We are united in both principle and purpose, vigorously defending against attacks on our economic and individual freedoms and promoting a vision of Canada where everyone can succeed.
All people, no matter where they live or what they do, are best served when governments stand down and allow individuals, families, and communities to determine their own destiny. And you watch how Canadians will respond if we allow that fundamental belief to continue to guide us. But I need all of you. I'm going to say right now, it's going to be a lot of hard work. The Liberals and all their friends are going to throw everything they've got at us. It's going to get harder and harder. But I want you all to take it with a smile. Because all that means is that we're winning. But as you're out there knocking on doors and talking to your neighbors, I want you to allow yourselves to dream a little bit. While you're out talking to Canadians about what we're going to do, about the failures of the Liberal government and the consequences they've had on making life harder for Canadians, I want you to dream about the country that we'll be building. And think about, what if we had a government that understood that a free people making free decisions was the best way to improve the quality of life and create prosperity for all Canadians? What if we had a government that believed that there was enough space in our public debate for values and viewpoints it didn't agree with? What if we had a government that didn't always just look back into our history looking for reasons to be ashamed, but instead for reasons to be proud? What if we had a government that knew that the best way to fight against protectionism is to make Canada the most attractive place in the world to invest and to create jobs? And what if we had a government that was led by a prime minister that actually understood the everyday problems Canadians face and governed with a clear plan to help them? This is what the Conservative Party will offer. Un pays où nous ne sommes pas seulement là.
A country where we're not only there to pay taxes, but we're there to be entitled to a good country.
To pay taxes to a big government, they're there to be served by a good government. A country where we work with First Nations as partners in our shared prosperity, instead of talking down to them with empty gestures and symbolism. A country where wealth isn't taxed and regulated and controlled, but created, unleashed, and multiplied, where hard work is rewarded, not punished, where the government realizes that the best way to ensure that more Canadians get ahead is by lifting people up, not tearing people down. Where we can build big, nation-building projects, the kinds of things that bring us closer together as a people and make it easier for one part of the country to benefit from the prosperity of another. And that is why a Conservative government will repeal the Liberal regulatory changes and get Energy East back to the table. Ladies and gentlemen, this is my positive conservative vision, where taxes are low, government is limited, but opportunity is unlimited, where freedom is celebrated and people are put before government. Ladies and gentlemen, that's what we're going to build together. Thank you so much for all your support. Merci beaucoup.